Welcome to level 1 of Microsoft Excel. This is an introductory course to Excel, so all you'll have to do is follow along with me and just complete the tasks as we go. So starting on our Teams page, what we're going to do first is down here we can see the directions. We have our rubric here we can look at if we need to. Under the My Work section, what I want you to do is go to the 3 dots right here, and we're going to click Open in Excel Online. We're going to be working on the online version of Excel today, not the desktop, so make sure we click Open in Excel Online. So this is going to open up Microsoft Excel inside a new window. This is again the online version. We have the online and the desktop. The desktop has all the full features that you could ever need. The online version has the majority of things you would need for a daily use. This would be very comparable to something like Google Sheets, to where it's completely online, but again, it has the functionality that you'll need to do 90% of the things we have to do. All right, so what we have today is this is just a sample set of data. So I made a grade book, and this is a Unit 1 grade book. So first of all, looking at this, at the top we have our ribbon, and inside our ribbon we have different tabs. All of these tabs relate to different features of Excel. One thing I want to point out real quick is if you look at the bottom, you also have tabs in your workbook. So this is an Excel workbook. That means we have multiple tabs down here. If I click on this one, it'll bring me to a different set of information. So it's always important to look at the bottom to see what tabs you have there. You do have the ability to add a new sheet, a new tab if you'd like to. So you can always create more, and this can go on for a very long time. So again, checking those tabs at the bottom is really important to make sure you're on the right one. So we should be on the Unit 1 Gradebook tab. We're going to start off by talking about the cells inside the spreadsheet. So each cell has a name given on its location. So for example, this is column F. So right here it'd be F6. So we name our cells based on their axis. So that's F6, this would be E10. It's just really important to know that if I need to find a piece of information and it's in G10, I know where to go with that. So our cells are adjustable. We can adjust the width. If I click between column A and B, you see that little arrow with the lines on it. We can click and drag that. We can make our cells wider or narrower, however you want to do it. We can also do the same with the row height, so we can adjust that height to allow more information to be shown. There is a feature that if you have text that you're getting long responses from students, and you don't have to do this one, just watch. You do have this ability to do wrap text. So what that does is it expands the cell to fill with the text that's in there. So that wrap text is a good trick for, especially if you're getting paragraphs from your kids from a form or something. You can wrap text and you'll be able to see all that info. So we're going to leave that just as it was though, because what we're going to do actually is we're going to do an auto format for the width so I can see all this information. I see a lot of it's cut off. So here's what you need to do. You're going to click in A1 and you're going to drag all the way down to H31. So I just clicked and dragged, so now all that information is highlighted. So now what I want to do is up here on the ribbon under Format, I'm going to click Auto Fit Column Width. So when I click that, now I can see all the information in there. It auto fits to the widest point of that column. So now you can see all the information in each column. So that auto fit column width is a really good way to make sure you see everything. You can do the same thing with the height, so you're not wasting space and you can see all of your information. So those cells are adjustable. We can just adjust the width and the height. The next thing I want to talk about is entering data. So if this was a grade book and I had some data to enter here, let's say I'm grading assignment 4 and I have my scores. These are all percents right now, so I'm just putting the number of the percent. Let's say I'm entering my scores and that's an 85. I can just enter that in there and move to the next cell, and that's going to get entered in. I can tell that that was entered correctly because do you see right here, this is shifted to the right side, whereas the assignment 4 is actually shifted to the left. When things are recognized as numbers, they're shifted to the right. When they're recognized as text, they're shifted to the left. Now you can adjust this. This is just the default. So for example, if I wanted that to be left justified, I could do that. But we're going to keep it right justified. That's just an auto feature of recognizing text versus numbers. We want to make sure it's recognized as a number because we're going to do percentages and stuff in a little bit. All right, so now we need to fill in these scores. So if you had student data, you could put in different scores going all the way down. But right now what I want you to do is in E2, I want you to enter 85, and then in E3, enter 84. I'm going to show you a quick feature of Excel, and this is kind of an autofill feature. What Excel does is it recognizes patterns. So instead of filling all these in, because these aren't real scores, so we can just make up any numbers to get put in here. What I want to do is hold in E2 and drag down to E3. So now that I have both those highlighted, this little square down in the corner, this allows me to drag this pattern down to the rest of them. So watch what happens when I click and drag down to the last one. It started counting down because it recognized that pattern of going down by 1. So I just auto-filled those scores. You can do that to number things. So if you just start numbering 1, 2, and you had to number through 30, all you'd have to do is 1 and 2, and then autofill, and it would help you get those done. So just because these scores don't really matter for anything, we can just autofill those in. Now, like I said, it recognizes patterns, but it also recognizes, it'll copy things for you. So if it's just 1, all it's gonna do is copy that down the whole way. I know sometimes we give assignments and everyone gets 100%, so that's a way you can just autofill and get that all the way done, all the way down to where you need to without typing it in 35 times. So right now what I want to make sure you do is you have all those filled with 100, and you have these starting at 85 going all the way down to 56. The next part we're going to start working on are formulas. Formulas are great for saving time. They do the math for you. They auto-calculate. There's a lot of different ones we use. In teaching, we use average quite a bit. Average will take an automatic average of whatever data is in that cell or in the cells you select. Now, when we do formulas, we always start with one box. So, and our formulas always start with equals. So right now you have to type equals, and you're going to start spelling out average. So you're going to put average in there, and then you need to do a parenthesis. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click in B2, and you're going to drag over to G2. So I have all those selected. You can see my formula says average parenthesis B2 colon G2. So that's B2 through G2. And then end your parenthesis and hit enter. And it found the average of those for me automatically. Now, if I want to do it for the rest of them, all I have to do is I'm going to take this, click on that bottom right hand square, I'm going to drag down to the rest of them, and it's going to average all of those for me. So that's a very quick way to average. Now if I were taking all in percents, I have my percents, they're good to go. So that average thing, that formula is very, very nice. So as of right now, we should have our assignment 4 and 5 filled in, and we should have our averages filled in. The next part I want to look at is making this data more usable. So right now, this data as it's in here in Excel, it's just a bunch of different values. There's no real rule telling Excel what to do with this data because it's just listed and there's a bunch of data. But what we're going to do is turn this into a table. When we turn our data into a table, there's a lot more things that we can do with it to manipulate it. So what I want you to do is click in A1 and you're going to drag down to H31. So that's all the data we have in our table. Now on our ribbon, if we go over to under the tables section, we're going to format as a table. Now let's go ahead with this blue one. And you're going to see, okay, it's selecting, I want A1 through H31. My table has headers. That's what my headers are. And I'm going to click OK. Now you can see it just transformed the way this looks into a setup table. Now this table has a lot more functionality. So for example, if I wanted to look at assignment 1 and I wanted to sort those, I could sort and get my scores so I know who exactly I need to work with assignment 1 on. So those are just really cool features you can do to sort to help it. You can also, let's say it's assignment 2 and I want to do a filter, so I only want to find students that are less than, let's say less than 70. Click OK, and it's only going to bring up the list of students that are less than 70. Now if I want to see all my data again, I just got to click on that same filter, clear from assignment 2. With this sort, I can go back to alphabetical if I wanted to. So under student, I could do ascending. Now we have our data back to where it was. So because I turned it into a table, I now have these features here that weren't available before. So that's a really cool feature. The one thing that's limiting about it is that you do have to have a clear header going across. So that may be very helpful for some of us moving forward. Okay, the next part I want to talk about is conditional formatting. Data is only as valuable as it is usable, so you got to be able to use it and let it help you guide your instruction. So we're going to do something called conditional formatting, which is going to allow us to find information easier. So for example, if I wanted to look at assignment 1, I'm going to click on column B. So right now column B is highlighted. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this conditional formatting. I'm going to do a highlight rule, and I'm going to highlight if the value is less than 70. That shows me kids that are not passing. And I click OK. It just highlighted those kids for me that are less than 70. So now it's easier to sort, easier to find students that I need to find for certain information. You can actually, if you want to, highlight all of your assignments, conditional formatting, less than, and we'll say 70 again, and you'll be able to see all that data that exists for those students that are less than 70. So that's a real cool feature that allows you to find important information, allows you to find those kids before they slip through the cracks. All right, so now that's conditional formatting. There's a lot of other features in there. You can look at the greater than or equal to, so you can really get into sorting your data in a really cool way. In level 2, I go through and explain a little bit more of that. All right, so like we said before, down at the bottom we have tabs. So right now for this sheet on our first tab, so this is Unit 1 Gradebook, it should look just like this. You should have a format as a table, you should have averages, assignment 4 and 5 should be filled in, and you should have some kind of conditional formatting to select a certain group of data. So now we're going to switch over to our second sheet down here, which is assignment 6 percentage examples. And we're just going to go over another quick formula so I can show you how easy it is to use these to help on a daily basis. So right now, let's say we had an assignment we sent out to our students and it was worth 20 points. And what I did here is I entered their scores. So this is the scores they got. So what we can do is actually use a formula to help us get a percent of these so that I can put it in the gradebook in an easier format. So let's say, for instance, that this assignment was worth 20 points. To get that percent, I would take what they got and divide it by 20. So that's exactly what we're going to do. You're going to click in C2, you're going to type equals, and then you're going to do B2, so click right in B2, and divided by, so that is the /, and then you're going to divide it by 20, and hit enter. So you can see right now that automatically gave me a percent. So if I wanted to, I could click and drag that all the way down, and I can see my percentages as they pop up. Now let's say these students came in the next day and they got their assignment done. Watch what happens when I fill that in with 15. That percent automatically updates. So I can fill in their scores and see their percentages right away. So again, that's using a formula to help save us time so we don't have to calculate those by hand. All right, so I can see these are percentages, but they're listed as decimals. Now we can also change that. So if I highlight column C, so I'm gonna click on column C, and what I wanna do is up here under where it says number, where it says general, I'm gonna click that arrow and I'm gonna change those to percentages. So now it just converted those decimals to percents, and I have my grades, I'm good to go. So again, there's a lot of features you can use with those formulas, and then making sure we're formatting them the correct way. All right, so right now we should have our scores listed and we should have our percents all in for those assignments. So we have this one done, our grade book is all done. That is actually all we have to do for level 1 right now. So we're gonna go ahead and end this. What I wanna make sure I have before I close anything is I wanna make sure it says saved up here. It always has to have saved. If it says saving, just give it a second and wait. Make sure it says saved. Once it says saved, you can actually close it. Now that I'm back here on my Teams page, if I open this, it may take a second for it to load, but you can see all my updates are there. Everything I did is correct. So I have everything done. I can close that. You can double check your rubric. Now that that's done, you're gonna turn in and you are done with level 1. If you feel the need to keep going, you can go on to level 2 and level 3. In those levels, we're working with some reports from Skyward as well as some reports from Aware. So we're getting to some more technical stuff with those, but some very good skills involved in those as well. Thank you and best of luck with the rest of the school year.